In this video, I'm going to break down two of the biggest changes in real estate since the new laws went into effect in August of this year, 2024. The first one's really affecting real estate agents more than it is buyers, and the second one is having a huge impact on buyers nationwide. The first one is no longer are real estate agents allowed to put anything to do with commissions or compensation in the MLS. It can't be in the wording. As I'm going to show you in this example, this is what our MLS looked like before. And you can see we have three fields for a percentage on what the buyer's agent is going to receive for bringing a buyer to closing. This example is 2%. This also has a $1,000 bonus, which I'll talk about more in a minute. Now this is an example of what the same MLS sheet looks like now with the compensation fields being removed. And the agents have no option or choice for this. This has been removed from the MLS committees, nationwide. You won't find anything to do with compensation anywhere. As a matter of fact, we can't even use the terms or words compensation or commission within the MLS period. It's major, major fines, and agents can lose their license. And they're taking this very, very seriously. So you're thinking, how do agents figure out or find out what they're going to get paid, if anything? Well, unfortunately, now the agents have to either call the listing broker, they have to email the listing broker, or text the listing broker if they want the seller to pay it or find out if the seller's offering anything. Some sellers are not offering any commission, which is what I have going on with some of my foreclosures right now. They're just not paying it. They're making buyer's agents negotiate it if they want to get paid. So that's the first biggest change. No more commissions in MLS, and agents have to go track it down to find out what the seller's offering, if anything. The second major change that's having a huge effect for buyers is now all buyers, it doesn't matter if you go to the listing agent directly or you're using your own buyer's agent, all buyers must sign a buyer-broker agreement before they can even view a property. And this is a major change because this has always been optional. It never has been mandatory, but now it is. And I'm having a lot of conversations with buyers throughout the country that have no idea about this, and I try to explain. Before I can even show you the property, you're going to have to sign a buyer-broker agreement. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. So I'm going to show you kind of three examples of how it works here in Florida. Just remember one big thing. There's going to be many different variations of these agreements. Just make sure and read over them. I'm going to show you a couple of things to highlight and look for, just to pay attention to and understand before you sign one of these agreements. So the form that I'm going to personally use 9 times out of 10 is going to be the property pre-touring agreement form. And this one's very simple, very straightforward, and easy to read. One thing I do want to point out that you need to remember, all these agreements are going to be with the actual company, the real estate company, the real estate brokerage, not the agent that you're working with. So just so you remember this, if you're working with an agent and by chance you don't get along with this agent, you don't like this agent, you want another agent, and you want to fire the agent and get out of the agreement, the agent might agree, but the brokerage also has to agree because the brokerage is the one with their name on this contract, not the agent. And what will happen with a lot of companies, they'll assign you another agent within their company. They won't necessarily let you out of the contract, but they'll just give you another agent instead of the one that you've been using. So just remember, these contracts are with the company and not the agent. So this form is pretty simple. It says, I'm a real estate licensee with blank brokerage. Here's where the consumers or the purchasers' names are going to go. And this one doesn't go by specific properties that are shown. This goes by a number of days that you're working with a buyer. And it says brokerage commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. Everyone's going to say that commissions have always been negotiable, and that is true. The problem usually is that a lot of the companies don't allow their agents to offer different commission structures. They might allow like 5 or 6%, but nothing less. So even though they are technically negotiable, a lot of times they're really not. You do not owe broker any compensation at this time. This is what I like about this form. This is spelling it out. You don't owe me or anyone else you're working with anything at this time of signing this form. And this is going to say if you wish to work with the broker to show you properties, this is going to be their compensation down here. It's going to be like 3% of gross purchase price plus anything else you add. A lot of times I'll default to 3% or 2.5%. Just depends on the property and what we're doing. But it also says in this form, a seller or listing broker may agree to pay some or all of the above compensation. If a seller or listing broker agrees to pay broker for services broker performs for you, broker will reduce the amount you owe accordingly. So in other words, if you're offering 3% up here and the listing broker is paying 2.5%, this says you'll basically agree to the 2.5% what they're offering, and that's what I like. If you choose a property already listed by broker, seller may pay broker for services broker performs for seller, and you will not be responsible for any of this compensation. In other words, if you're looking at the property that the listing agent is listing, the seller is paying the broker for their selling services. That's nothing to do with you at all. And here's the point I want to make about that bonus that you saw earlier in the video. Broker's compensation from any source will not exceed the amount of compensation in a written agreement with you. In other words, if this says 3% and that's it, that agent is not allowed to take that $1,000 bonus unless they go in and amend this agreement to allow for it. But you cannot get any compensation as an agent above what you agreed to in writing with the buyer. So I want to show you this one. This is a showing agreement, and it has specific time frames, and it has a list of properties that are being shown to the buyer. Just make sure and read over any one that you get from an agent to sign. Make sure that you understand your buyer obligations, and make sure you understand what the broker obligations are. This one talks about how buyer's agents can be working with more than one buyer, and if so, if they put an offer in for another buyer on the same property, they're going to notify you in writing, or supposedly in writing, that they do have another offer for another buyer they're working with, just so you know. And I've seen this on a couple different forums throughout the country, but this is something that most agents, including myself, would never ever do. This is one reason why I don't like this form. And if I ever used this, I would make sure I crossed this out right here and had the buyer's initial it. But this says buyer authorizes broker to run a credit check to verify buyer's credit information. That's not going to happen. I'm never ever going to go down that road with any buyer. I'm not pulling any credit, nor do I want to pull any buyer's credit. That's not my responsibility. Hopefully the buyers I'm working with are going to be paying cash, but if you're getting financing and I'm working with you, then we're already going to have a pre-qualification letter, pre-approval letter, in file, ready to go as soon as we start looking at properties. So this is something that I never ever will do, period. So this is the last one I want to show you real quick, and the biggest thing with this one, this is several pages. And this is more like a marriage agreement with your agent, not like you're dating. I mean, this one is thick. It has a lot more things in it for buyers and for the agents, so just make sure and please read through these and pay attention to your dates. That's one of the biggest things that I can tell you, that the dates, I would never go more than a couple weeks maybe. There's no reason to sign up any agreement for 6 months to a year, and that's the biggest problem I have with these agreements. A lot of agents want to go a full year out, and to me that is absolutely ridiculous, and it just locks the agent with the buyer for that long. And remember, as we learned earlier, these agreements are with the actual brokerage, the real estate company, and not the real estate agent. Just make sure and read over these agreements, and if you have any questions, make sure and get good definite answers. But hopefully your agent you're working with is going to keep it very simple and easy for you, so you understand exactly what's going on. Okay, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, leave them below in the comment section. I'll be glad to answer. As always, I really appreciate it. Thanks, and have a great day.